Hi there and welcome back to the Performance Centre here at Howley Hall Golf Club in Leeds. As you've seen from the title of the video, we have the brand new ZXiR and ZXiR HL iron from Srixon to take a look at today. But before we do that, hit the subscribe button, see loads more content from all of us here at Golfshake to help you play more and play better. If you've already subscribed to the channel, great, you'll know exactly what we're all about, and you'll have seen some of the great videos that have come out in the last couple of months, particularly focusing on irons and how far you should hit these irons depending on your swing speed. We're going to do a little bit of that today, as well as review these irons. I've actually hit a couple at your kind of average club golf or club head speed with a 7-iron as well, so we'll see what these do at that speed too. So it's not just going to be completely irrelevant to you because of the speed that I'm hitting it at. It should be somewhere near the sort of numbers that you would get out of these as well. Obviously, we would recommend you go and get properly fitted for these irons. They do come with a variety of different shafts, which we'll get into as we talk through the video. But for now, let's have a chat about these new irons. So the big story in this new IR iron is the eye alloy that Srixon have developed to make these irons feel really nice and soft. It's to do with how the construction of the body is, but also the face. So when we get into the face of this iron from 8 iron down, so 8, 9 wedge and sand wedge and gap wedge as well, which is available in both of these sets, they have the new eye alloy face. Both have it in the whole body when you get to the longer irons, but the face changes ever so slightly in those longer irons. Now, what does the eye alloy do? Well, it's significantly softer than what many companies use in iron faces at the moment, which is a 431 steel, which does feel that little bit firmer. The eye alloy is much softer. It's a proprietary one that Srixon have developed to make these irons feel exceptionally good. Many of you that have tried Srixon irons before know they already feel pretty damn good anyway, and obviously this eye alloy is giving that really great feel to an iron that is probably aimed at your mid to high handicap range as well. Certainly the HL version would be, you know, a little bit wider, a little bit more weight, lower in the head, a little bit higher launching. So when we get into why one is HL and why one isn't, you can't really tell much of a difference when we look at these irons in that kind of position there. They both look quite similar from just about every angle. There is a little bit more thickness in the sole there and a little bit more weight lower down, slightly higher MOI, which is obviously making these slightly more forgiving, and that's achieved by the mainframe technology that Srixon use. So what that does is basically thins out different parts of the face behind, moves that weight to the outside of the golf club. That kind of gives you a little bit better ball speed, so the face is a bit faster. It also gives you better feel with that eye alloy in there as well, but also gives you slightly higher launch and higher MOI, so these are more stable. Both of them feature that VT sole that we've come to know and love from Srixon as well, so we can see that where it's kind of stepped at the back and the toe, so it lowers that sole profile, but also it's kind of chamfered off in the leading edge and also towards the back edge as well to help these irons go through the turf slightly better too. So we would expect nothing but the norm really from Srixon, an iron that's going to feel fantastic, go through the turf quite easily, but now in a body that looks quite nice, but is going to deliver that forgiveness that you are all looking for. Now, there are different shafts available in these that I spoke about before. So in the HL iron, so the higher launch, as you would expect, we have some slightly lighter shaft options. So an 80 HL KBS as standard in steel, and then when we go into the graphite option, we've got KBS Max Graphite, which goes down to about 55 grams. So about 85 grams in this, 55 grams in the KBS Max Graphite. And then in the standard ZXiR, I've actually got one sent with an X100 Dynamic Gold. Now, this is 115 grams, much heavier than the shaft that comes in here as standard, because you're going to get a KBS Tour Light in here at about 95 grams as standard. And in the graphite option, we've got a KBS PGI shaft as well, which comes in around that sort of 60 grams, so very, very light shaft in there as well. So everything about these irons is helping you to get the ball in the air slightly better, and it's going to be an iron that is probably going to, like I say, suit that mid to high handicapper or someone who really struggles with getting the elevation on the golf ball. We're going to test them today. Like I say, I'm going to test all the way through the iron. So I've basically got in here, I've got a 5, 7 and 9 in both. I've also been sent a sand wedge, which comes as part of the set in the ZXiR iron. And as I said earlier, I'm going to hit these at 75 miles an hour and see exactly what these two irons do as well. I'm going to start off with the ZXiR HL iron. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? I'm going to start off with 9 iron, work my way to 7 and 5, and I'll do the same in the ZXiR iron. We've obviously got a sand wedge in that, which I'll hit a few shots with too. And like I said before, I'm going to hit a few at 75 miles an hour and see what these do. So the biggest difference between the HL and the standard ZXiR is not only the slightly sort of lower CG and a bit more weight in there, but it's the lofts, okay? So when we look at the 7 irons in both of these sets, there's about a 4-degree difference in there. So in the ZXiR, we're talking about 28.5 degrees for a 7 iron, which is pretty strong. That's kind of a strong 6 iron loft really in old money if we're talking about that way. And in the HL, we're looking at 32.5, so that's kind of a strong 7 iron or a weak 6 iron, depending on how you look at that, but it kind of sits in between the two clubs, to be honest. So we would expect the ZXiR HL, obviously in the HL name, high launch, to launch higher, maybe spin a little bit more, and maybe not quite go as far as its kind of stronger big brother, if you like, in ZXiR. So like I said, we'll start off with the 9 iron and see how that goes. I mean, straight away looking at it behind the golf ball, I think it looks pretty inviting. Yes, there's a bit of offset on there, but you want there to be on a set like this. The top line is a little bit thicker than many other Srixon irons that you'll have come to know and love, but I think it looks pretty nice, and you can tell it's a Srixon iron when you sit it behind the golf ball, and that, you know, that is a massive positive because I think they look great. Again, it feels pretty solid off the face, pretty decent distance. Like I say, the offset is noticeable, but it's not off-putting, if you know what I mean. It looks quite good behind the golf ball. Has to be said, the ones I've been sent here, so the HL set has the standard 80 HL shaft in it in stiff flex. The ZXiR iron I've actually been sent in my spec, so extra stiff, slightly longer, thicker grip. So they're probably going to feel to me a little bit nicer naturally, but I still think this feels and looks quite nice. Yeah, the shaft does feel soft, but it's supposed to. Feels great off the face, and you can feel when you hit down through the mat there, that sole really doing its job, kind of engaging with the turf. And yeah, just really easy to launch. I think they look great. Feel good too. Right, let's hit some 7s. So when we look at the kind of packaging the 7 iron in terms of its footprint, it does look that bit bigger, nice rounded kind of look to it as well, which I quite like. Again, the way it sits behind the ball is quite nice too. We'll obviously put that graphic up so you can see what they look like behind the ball as well. So they're not massively off-putting. Yes, you can see the offset. Yes, you can see that thicker top line. I just think they look really, really nice, to be honest, and they look quite inviting and easy to use. They certainly feel good off the face as well. You know, we haven't, in the 9 iron, we've kind of moved from that eye alloy face now into a 7 that doesn't have that technology. I can't really tell the difference, to be honest. I think they feel really good. That 9 just felt really nice and soft, but so does the 7, to be honest. It feels really, really good off the face. You can't tell that there's a different kind of material being used to make the faces in these 2 irons. We kind of, like I said before, move over at 8 iron. So up to 8 iron has the eye alloy, 7 upwards doesn't. But for me, I can't tell. So we're now going to move on to 5 iron in this ZXiR HL set at 24.5 degrees. So it's just slightly weaker than your standard 4 iron would be. Reminder that the 7 iron 32.5, so kind of slightly stronger than the average 7, weaker than a 6. And the 9 iron was up there at 41 degrees. So kind of, you know, a little bit stronger than your traditional iron would be, but close enough really. And particularly when we're thinking about the soles being that little bit wider, easier to launch in these irons, you would expect the lofts ever so slightly to be nudged stronger just to try and control that ball flight a bit. So we're going to hit 5 iron. So now it's at a 4 iron type loft, so we'd expect this to go a little further than my normal 5 iron would, so probably around the 200 to 210 mark, maybe a little bit further. Yeah, good. Wasn't quite out the middle of the face, but it'll do. I mean, the thing that you notice when you sit this down is that the sole is nice and wide. We're probably getting that kind of hybrid style forgiveness out of this. There is more width. When you do sit it down, you just see that kind of back edge poking out of the iron there, which is probably a good thing. It kind of gives you a bit more forgiveness, and most of the people that I'm fitting at the moment or coaching probably don't have a 5-iron in the bag anyway, because it's quite a hard iron to use. They're tending to replace them with hybrids. So I think everything that this iron can do to kind of appeal to that player, a bit more width, a bit more forgiveness, maybe a bit more offset, all of those things are going to help you want to try this iron and put it in the bag. And it feels good off the face. It's quick, definitely quick. I mean, that is, where's that gone? It's gone a long way, that. It's well over 200 yards. So yeah, feels great, looks good, easy to hit, and as you would imagine in a HL iron, quite easy to launch. When we move into ZXiR, I've got a sand wedge here, which is 54 degrees, which we'll hit a few shots with. And many people don't get the sand wedge that's part of the set of irons or available with the set of irons, because they tend to go for a more specialist one. So in your Cleveland, you know, you may go for one of those more specialist wedges in there, or maybe the CBX ones if you want something that's a little bit more forgiving. But this kind of has got that V-sole, it's got mainframe, it's got all that technology that we're seeing in the irons. It blends pretty seamlessly with the set, it's got a little bit of offset on it, so it's a pretty good wedge. I mean, in terms of the way the sole grind is, it should be quite easy to play a variety of different shots with. You know, that V-sole really lends itself well to you hitting bunker shots, because it's going to get quite a lot of mass low and under the golf ball, and you can see how that bounce there works. But then when you're playing it square off a tighter lie, because we've got this kind of chamfered bit at the front, it should also be quite good for hitting chip shots with. I'm just going to hit a few sort of fuller pitch shots here and up to hitting a few longer ones. I mean, the shape is really nice as well behind the golf ball, nice and rounded. It's just a nice looking wedge. Feels good too, really, really good off the face. Really nice high launch, plenty of spin. It's just a really nice golf club. So I wouldn't dismiss the sand wedge that comes as part of your set, unless you're really dead set on getting something a bit more specialist, or you really need that kind of the kind of bounce and grind options that many wedges give you. For most people, this is going to be a perfectly good wedge, because you're generally with a sand wedge going to be playing either bunker shots or little pitch shots with it, and it tends to work quite nicely with there. When you get into your lob wedges and higher lofted wedges, that's when maybe you do need a bit more versatility and a bit more, you know, sole grind or slightly different shape into it. But maybe in sand wedges, this one should be pretty good. So we're going to move into the 9-iron in ZXiR. This is 38 degrees, so 3 degrees stronger than the one we were hitting in the HL. Again, like I said before, these have been made in my specs, so they're longer, they've got thicker grips, they've got an extra stiff shaft, so they already feel more comfortable when I'm stood in that kind of playing position to hit them. They look great. I mean, you'd be hard pushed to tell the difference between these two irons sitting them behind the ball, I think. You just know that the loft is slightly different, and obviously there's not quite as much weight in the bottom of the head in this one. But reminder, we've got this eye alloy face in this 9-iron, so it should feel really nice and soft. Just feels really good. Really nice, solid feeling iron. And again, it feels very, very similar to some of the kind of smaller headed ones like your ZXi 5s and 7s that you get. There's not really that much difference in the feel, which is only a massive kind of compliment, I think, for Srixon, that they've managed to make an iron in a slightly bigger head and, you know, thinner face, something that's going to come off nice and hot, but still feel and look quite similar to the rest of their iron range. I think that's a huge tick in the box. So 7-iron now in ZXiR, down at that 28.5 degrees. Yes, I did say that. So that is a slightly weak 5-iron, I would say. So I would expect this 7-iron to be getting close to 200 yards with that amount of loft on it. Now, like I said, there are some technological reasons for this. If you are a player who, I don't know, say you are a massive slicer of the golf ball, really chop across it and hit the ball stratospherically high and lose loads of distance, right? Maybe an iron like this that's going to knock some of that off might help you gain a few yards that you're losing vertically, all right? So strengthening the loft and moving the weight so it's not quite as low in the head will probably help you with performance, right? Now, someone like myself, I do not struggle to get the ball in the air at all, I'm probably going to find with an iron as strong as this that it's just going to go forwards quicker and longer, and that's not really what I want this iron to do. So that's why you need to go and get fitted for these. Obviously the shaft options will make a huge difference too. You know, a shaft here, 115 gram extra stiff, is again going to make this harder to get in the air and harder to spin. So I would expect this to be a bit of a rocket launcher in a 7-iron, but let's have a hit with it and see what it does. I mean, that has come off very quick. And yeah, it's gone 200 yards, which is what I thought it was going to do. So yeah, very, very fast off the face, 28.5 degree loft, so it's strong. Again, all the benefits that you're going to get with the sole, the main frame, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be super forgiving. Now we've not got the eye alloy face in this, but again, you're hard pushed to tell the difference between those. I guess the performance would kind of indicate that when we have a bit of a look at the numbers. Potentially you may not see any difference, but yeah, these are a strong set of irons, and if you're that player who really needs a bit more distance and doesn't struggle with height, these could tick a lot of boxes for you. And on to the 5-iron. This is going to be fun because this is seriously strong. 22 degrees in the 5-iron, which is a 3-iron really in my books, 1 degree weaker than your traditional 3-iron at 21. Obviously in a slightly shorter 5-iron shaft. Again, same one, X100, 115 grams thicker grip on it. If the 7-iron went 200 yards, this should go at least 220, maybe a little bit more, which my 5-iron lands at about 200 to 205 generally. But my 5-iron is 27 degrees, I think, maybe even 28 in the set that I've got. So it's basically the 7-iron that was in this set, really, so which is kind of stacks up against how far that one's gone. So let's hit 5-iron. Again, this is the first iron, just like we saw in HL, where you can see this little bit of mass at the back of the head there. Not quite as much, but you can still see it. The offset looks slightly less as well, so it may appeal to the more traditional golfer out there a little bit more, but again, it still looks nice and forgiving. Yeah, that's come off low and fizzed really. Yeah, that's gone by. How far has that gone? 240 yards. Nice. Just what you want from a 5-iron. Yeah, I mean, that's strong. It's a rocket. It goes miles. It's doing what it's designed to do. Is it for me? Absolutely not, but there'll be golfers out there that this will suit really, really nicely. I'd probably be more in the HL camp because it's going to help me control the spin and the launch a bit better and kind of gap my set a bit better as well. But let's go and have a look at those all-important results. Both of these feel good, it has to be said, and any of you that are a Srixon lover and what's not to love about their irons are going to love these, but they do suit slightly different types of golfers, so you need to get fitted for them. Right, let's have a look. So let's have a look at these numbers. So we'll start with the ZXiR HL iron. We can see here, we'll start with 9-iron, so 152-ish total distance, carrying at 148, 149, so stops quite quickly, 7,300 spin, 109. I mean, if we look at the height on all three of these, it's exactly the same. I mean, how good is that? I mean, for me, like I said, when hitting them, that high launch iron would suit me better, I think, than the ZXiR. I mean, everything about you would want to use that one because it's a little bit smaller and nicer looking. But if it's not performing for you, why the hell would you? So we can see here, I'm getting exactly the same peak height out of all three of those irons. When we then look at ZXiR, we can see we are getting a little bit more distance because of the strength in the loft. We'll start with the sand wedge was just a little pitch sort of shot that we were hitting there at 106, 54 degrees is pretty much what you would expect. 9,800 spin, 86 feet in height. So again, nice controlled wedge shot, you know, a little bit lower in flight, which is probably what you want with a wedge because it's spinning so much. You're going to get a bit of control. Really good, and I thought the wedge felt and looked really good. We can actually see these are peaking slightly higher than the high launch in terms of their overall height, apart from 5-iron, which has come out 2 feet lower, so it's negligible really, but yeah, these are about 3-4 feet higher in general. Now the spin is slightly higher, slightly lower with these than it was with the high launch, so we're seeing that, and that is just down to the loft. Okay, so we're seeing now the 9-iron nearly 160 total, 155 carry, 7-iron 208 total and 200 carry, and the 5-iron at 220 carry, 233 total. So that is probably 15 yards longer than I would hit a normal 5-iron. But like I say, we've got to take the loft into account. It's 22 degrees. That is a 3-iron basically. Now what I said before as well was that I was going to hit one at your kind of standard club golfer's club head speed as well, and we can see here that I've done that. Now, I said 75 miles an hour. We can see one's 76.6, the other one's 77.3, so pretty close. What we can see is they've carried exactly the same distance, but how they've done that is very, very different. We can see in the HL it's peaked at 78 feet there, yeah? So much, much higher versus the 53 feet that we see in ZXiR. Now, that tells me that if you haven't got enough clubhead speed to get that thing launching, it's not going to go very well for you. It's probably going to not spin very much, land quite short and run a long way. And when we're talking about those landing and stopping distances with an iron, because we want to hold these on a green, we want it to flight in, land and stop. We do not want an iron running 20 and sometimes 30 yards. Like you've seen many other videos, we're trying to look at how these irons and how all the equipment that we test kind of relates to how you hit the golf ball. How I hit it is irrelevant, right? So we want to know how you hit the golf ball, the speeds you're hitting it, the way that you deliver the golf club, and try and replicate that when we're doing our testing. Obviously, we don't have a robot that's millions of dollars that's going to hit these at different speeds and different kind of angles of attack and paths and things. I'm trying to do it a little bit myself to show you how these clubs perform, and we can see here that speed plays a massive part in these irons launching high enough and stopping fast enough. Please, if you've got some questions, drop them in the comment section below, and we'll see you next time here on the Golfshake YouTube channel.